If you search around, there are incidents of mostly young people, mostly men, who have taken the second Pfizer or Moderna vaccine and have had heart inflammation. This happened to one of my sons, and this has kind of delayed things for me. And this was very trying because he was sicker than I was. I decided I was going to take it. I didn't have much to do with his decision, but I probably would not have prevented him unless he didn't want to do it. He wanted to do it mainly because he wanted the ability to get a job without putting his mostly, well, really both of his parents at risk, more so than him, but also putting for his own safety, because even though COVID, well, I would say like with more recent strains, it's more dangerous to younger people, but it's not as dangerous to younger people. So getting it isn't as much of a risk. But if you get it and you beat it, there's no herd immunity. There's no like sustaining immunity. You'll be immune to it supposedly for about 4 or 5 months. Then you can get it again. If the world plays that game, then we're basically replacing the flu with a super flu that's more likely to harm you. And, years go by, you keep getting it, and if you're not developing an immunity, that's a possibility. I'm not an expert on this. This is one of the reasons why I didn't jump in and say, hey, no, I know enough about the vaccine to where I know the technology behind how they do these modern vaccines. But beyond that, it's not my major field. It's not something I study too heavy. So I wasn't going to talk him out of it like that. I wasn't going to talk him into it. He's old enough to where I would have said, okay, this is your choice because you're about to be an adult. He's not an adult, but you're about to be decision making an adult. And this is what I know about it, But I was monitoring him. I was concerned because he's not a big dude. You know what I mean? He's not a little short, frail dude, but he's kind of tall or thin built. Where his dad is a big dude. So I took the vaccine, and one reason I took it, like I said, I know the technology behind it. I said, hey, I'll shake this off, and I was sick for a little bit. I was sick mainly for about a day. But it wasn't really a bad sickness except for about maybe an hour of it. And even then, it was like a minute where it was really bad shivering. And I warmed up, and then from that point on, I was feeling better. But, it's a terrible thing to hear your son is in the hospital, because when you get this inflamed condition, and the reason why I'm doing this video is to leave it out there. And because when I heard he was in the hospital, I didn't know just how painful it was. Supposedly, heart inflammation feels like a heart attack. And I went to see him. I'm going to put up a few pictures because I mentioned this in some YouTube comments in a video where they were talking about this. I was doing research on it because I'm mainly doing this because supposedly this happens to very few people who take it. In Israel, more than 1 million people took it, and it happened to like 60 people. Of that 60 people, 2 died, I think. 62 people, I think it was. 2 died out of 60, something like that. So your odds, if you don't get heart inflammation, are are great. Most likely you're not going to get it. It's more likely, though, if you're a male, if you're younger. But if you do get heart inflammation, man, like 60, a couple people in Israel died. Now, people in the U.S. have gotten it. It hasn't been that common. I'm doing this because I don't know if it's more common than what the news puts out there. I can say this. He was in the hospital for about a day and a half, and I went there twice, and I didn't see any other people. It wasn't like the hospital was swarmed with people who took the second shot and had heart inflammation. Now, they gave him some anti-inflammation medicine. He's felt better since. He's had like some tingling, but that could be part of the healing. And of late, he's been fine. So I'm not saying this like to tell people not to get the vaccine, but I will say this: be on guard immediately, especially with young men, that if they have this symptom, they need to get to a doctor. If you're in an area where you don't trust your doctors, then I'm warning you about that, because you're going to need to get them to a doctor quickly to get anti-inflammation medicine. They should be good after that, I would think. Because it's possible that, because people get, a lot of times they'll get this not from the vaccine, they'll get it actually from COVID. You can get heart inflammation, and it's worse if you get it from COVID. So maybe getting the vaccine could save him. Maybe he's like one of those people that would have got it from COVID. And now if he gets COVID, either his immunities will fight it off, or, whereas suppose if he didn't have the immunities, he'd have it, and he'd have heart inflammation, and he'd have it for longer. It would be difficult to treat him, because you'd have to get rid of COVID first. Like with the vaccine, he was sick longer than me. I was sick for a day. It wasn't that bad. He was sick for maybe like 2 days. So in those 2 days, once those were over, there's no symptoms to cause inflammation anymore. If it's treated, it goes down, it goes away. Because the vaccine symptoms, even when you have a bad reaction, or maybe like for thinner people, for people who weigh less, it's not going to last longer than 2 days. And then you'll feel better. Whereas COVID, it could be 2 weeks, and you don't have heart inflammation for 2 weeks. And you're still going to be in the hospital, and like I said, if it's a hospital area, or area where you don't trust the hospital. So I am putting that out there to say, look, I don't know how common this is. I don't see any conspiracy evidence that this is more common than it seems. But I'm putting this out there as record. So if it happens to other people, maybe we can explore whether this is more common than it actually is reported. I'll also say this, the tinfoil hats, they got their little breakaway odd man rush goal when Dr. Fauci said that COVID might have come from a lab. Just him saying it might have came from a lab. Like I want to put that in perspective, that even folks like me that are not conspiracy theorists, that have spoken against the knuckle brain craziness of the flat earther, I know that conspiracies happen. The question is, are they sustainable? And you need a smaller amount of people to be able to sustain that. You need to be able to silence and scare people and all that. I don't necessarily trust Dr. Fauci because of other things he said and done. Did it come from a lab? I don't know. I'm just saying that there's more to what's going on if this dude is considered that it came from a lab and he doesn't know. And he could be one of those people that maybe he's learned by some of his other mistakes, and now he's just saying, hey, explore all options. I don't know. But I will say, if you're concerned about this vaccine, you have a right to. It's a horrible thing to hear your son is in the hospital because of a heart condition. So you have a right to be concerned. And if you're like, okay, I'm still going to get it because uh, this isn't that common, my story is one story. If you hear my story and it starts to add up, then you may want to reconsider that. So I'm putting my story out right now as one story, and you can take that from what you want. Now, like I said, if you still get the vaccine, especially if you are a young man or your father or mother and of a young man, I think it seems to be more common with people under 30. And now you have teenagers getting it, younger teenagers. I'm letting you know what I would do is get them like some pomegranate juice, get them some natural anti-inflammation, some dark chocolate, and after they have the vaccine, have a lot of that. That way, if they do have the condition, you're already treating it, and be ready, like I said, to take them to a doctor that they trust and that you trust, that you know about, that isn't disappearing people or mistreating people. And usually I think that's the area, but I mean, a lot of black folks live in really racist areas where you have a reason not to trust the facilities. That's it. That's why I'm delayed. I've been working on a video that I previewed after my last, where I talk about, and that might come out soon, but it's mainly about who's related to ancient Egyptians on ancestry tests, based on ancestry tests. And I'm going in on this because it's something, the results were somewhat unexpected in ways. But, so I'll be back. And like I said, make your decisions. I'm just giving some extra evidence to how common this is, because I don't really know. I'm just going by the media right now, and from what I know, the media might be right. This could have been a 1 out of a million thing that happened to my son. Like I said, when I was in the hospital, I didn't see a whole bunch of people in there for the same reason. It wasn't swarmed with people who took the second vaccine and were having heart inflammation, and I didn't see anybody else telling that story. So it may be that it's just really uncommon. I don't know. But one way we can kind of develop that knowledge is if we tell what's up. And I'm going to put these pictures out and link this to a YouTube comment, because one person was doubting whether I was telling the truth or not. And, this is not something I would lie about. And I'm not going to put my son on blast and put pictures of him or me. Will remain anonymous. But I will put pictures of me going to the hospital. I took a little snapshot of his room, and going to Children's Hospital because he's under 18. About to be 18 though. So that's it.